There are games that release and everybody talks about them for a week and then they just disappear. And then there are games that release, confuse half the people who play them, get called a masterpiece by the other half, and then 3 years later, people are still arguing about whether it was a genius piece of art or a pretentious mess. Alan Wake 2 is very much that second kind of game. And honestly, sitting here in 2026, I think we finally have enough distance to talk about it properly. Remedy Entertainment released Alan Wake 2 back in October 2023, and right from the start, this was not a normal game. It was not trying to be. If you went in expecting a straightforward horror shooter, you were going to have a very strange time. But if you went in open-minded, something happened to you while playing this game that is genuinely hard to explain to someone who has not experienced it. Let me start with what this game actually is, because that still confuses people. Alan Wake 2 is a survival horror game, a psychological thriller, and somehow also a metafictional commentary on storytelling itself, all wrapped into one. You play as two characters, Saga Anderson, an FBI agent investigating ritualistic murders in a small Pacific Northwest town called Bright Falls, and Alan Wake himself, a writer who has been trapped in a nightmarish alternate dimension called the Dark Place for 13 years. These two storylines run parallel, and you can switch between them at different points. That structure alone is something most games would not even attempt. The gameplay is built around careful resource management and deliberate combat. This is not a game where you are running around blasting enemies with infinite ammo feeling like a hero. Enemies, called the Taken, are regular humans and animals corrupted by darkness. You cannot hurt them with bullets alone. First, you have to burn away their dark shield using your flashlight, and then you shoot them. That two-step system sounds simple, but in practice it creates a very specific kind of tension. You are always thinking about your batteries, your ammo, your positioning. Every fight feels like something that could go wrong very quickly, and that feeling never really goes away, even after hours of playing. The controls are clean and responsive. Aiming feels precise, movement feels grounded. There's nothing flashy about how this game handles, but it doesn't need to be flashy. The design philosophy is clearly about making you feel slightly vulnerable all the time, and the controls support that perfectly. You are never fumbling with the interface, which matters a lot in a game where fumbling in a fight means you die. Now, here's where things get genuinely interesting. Saga Anderson has a tool called the Mind Place. It's essentially a mental map she builds inside her own head, where she pins evidence, photographs, and character profiles on boards to piece together the mystery. It's both a gameplay mechanic and a narrative device, and it works surprisingly well. You're literally organizing the story in real time, drawing connections between clues and unlocking new dialogue and story beats as you figure things out. It makes you feel like an actual detective rather than just someone following a waypoint marker. Alan's sections are completely different. In The Dark Place, Alan is trying to rewrite reality by editing the story he is living in. He finds manuscript pages, rearranges them, changes the world around him. Some areas are literally transformed when you alter the narrative. A dark alley becomes a lit street, a locked door becomes an open one. It's a fascinating mechanic because it blurs the line between gameplay and storytelling in a way that feels meaningful rather than gimmicky. And then there are the live action sequences. Remedy pushed this further than anyone expected. There are full musical numbers performed by real people, blended seamlessly into the game world. The first time you hit one of those moments, your brain genuinely does not know what to make of it. The story itself is dense. Alan Wake 2 is not a game you can half pay attention to. There are references to the original Alan Wake, to Control, to Remedy's broader connected universe. There are layers of fiction within fiction. Characters write stories that become real, realities overlap. And underneath all of that complexity is actually a very human story about a writer losing himself trying to find the perfect ending and a woman trying to protect her family while the world around her stops making sense. The emotional core is surprisingly grounded given how wild everything else gets. Saga is one of the best written protagonists in recent gaming history, and I will stand by that. She's calm, competent, and genuinely likable without feeling perfect. Her relationship with her partner, Alex Casey, voiced by James McCaffrey, who also plays Max Payne, adds real weight to her sections. Alan, meanwhile, is played brilliantly by Ilka Villi, with Matthew Peretta providing the voice. The two-actor approach sounds complicated, and it is, but it works. Alan comes across as someone genuinely broken by years of isolation and self-doubt. He's not a cool protagonist, he's kind of a mess, and that honesty makes him compelling. The world design in this game is extraordinary. Bright Falls and the surrounding areas feel real in a way that many open world games with 10 times the budget fail to achieve. The forests are dense and atmospheric, the town has personality. Small environmental details tell stories without any text or dialogue. And the Dark Place, Alan's nightmares version of New York City, is visually unlike anything else in gaming. It's surreal, oppressive, and beautiful in a genuinely unsettling way. The way light and darkness are used throughout the entire game is masterful. Remedy clearly understood that in a game about literal darkness as a force of evil, the lighting had to be something special. From a technical standpoint, Alan Wake 2 was already impressive at launch. The facial animations, the environmental detail, the way rain looks on surfaces, the way shadows behave. In 2026, the gap has closed a little with newer releases, but this game still looks genuinely stunning, especially on high-end hardware. There were performance issues at launch on some systems, and patches have addressed most of them since. If you're coming to this game fresh in 2026, you're getting the smoothest version of it. The music and sound design deserve their own conversation. The soundtrack blends ambient score with licensed tracks in ways that feel curated rather than random. The Poets of the Fall appearances for longtime Remedy fans are a genuine treat. But beyond the score, the sound design itself is exceptional. The way the Taken sound, the way the forest breathes around you, the way the Dark Place has this constant low hum that gets under your skin. It builds dread in a way that pure visuals alone could never achieve. Now, is this game perfect? No. The pacing in certain sections drags noticeably, particularly in the middle of Alan's chapters. Some players will find the narrative deliberately obtuse in ways that feel frustrating rather than rewarding. If you're someone who needs a game to explain itself clearly, Alan Wake 2 will test your patience. There's also a difficulty in recommending this to someone who has not played the original Alan Wake or Control, because the references pile up and can feel hollow without that context. The replayability is moderate. There are collectibles, hidden manuscript pages, and optional content worth exploring. A second playthrough does reward you with a deeper understanding of what the story was doing all along, but this is not a game with wildly different paths or endings based on choices. The experience is largely the same, just richer when you know what to look for. What makes Alan Wake 2 matter in 2026 is that nothing has quite copied it. The gaming landscape has moved toward live service models, bigger open worlds, and more predictable formulas. Remedy went in the complete opposite direction. They made something weird, personal, and genuinely ambitious. And that ambition paid off in the sense that this game sparked a real conversation about what games can do as a storytelling medium. It pushed against the idea that games have to be straightforward to be successful. If I had to put a number on it, Alan Wake 2 earns a 4.5 out of 5 from me. It's not perfect, but the things it does brilliantly are so distinctive and so well executed that the rough edges genuinely don't matter much in the long run. This is one of those games you finish and think about days afterwards, and in 2026, that kind of experience is rarer than it should be. If you haven't played this yet, do it. Go in patient, go in curious, and let it be strange. It will reward you for it. And if you've already played it and you loved it, I want to know your favorite moment down in the comments. Drop a like if this helped you make up your mind about the game, subscribe if you want more reviews like this, and share it with any gamer who still hasn't given Alan Wake 2 a real shot. They need the nudge.